Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Anti-government protests in Egypt's Tahrir Square keep growing as southern Egypt's demonstrators clash with police. And Human Rights Watch reports nearly 300 killed nationwide. Mosaic, world news from the Middle East, begins now.
كسبت الثورة المصرية أرضاً جديدة في سعيها لإسقاط النظام المصري.
The Egyptian revolution gained new ground on its 16th day of trying to overthrow the regime. The government was forced to evacuate its main headquarters because of the protests. Officials in the People's Assembly and the Shura Council had to evacuate their buildings as well. Protesters said they will lay siege to the radio and television building on Friday. In Port Said, protesters set fire to the local government's building and the governor's car. 3 people were killed and dozens were wounded in clashes with the police in Kharga city in New Valley province. The young people of the revolution reacted strongly to Vice President Omar Suleiman's statement that Mubarak will not step down immediately. Opposition leaders also announced their rejection of Suleiman's statement, which gave the opposition only 2 options: dialogue or military coup. Egyptian lawyers formed an association called the Legal Group to recover Egypt's stolen wealth. Discussions about the Mubarak family's wealth, estimated between $40 and $70 billion, have been prevalent. Certain public figures have submitted a notice to the Egyptian Attorney General on this matter.
They sleep with and wake up to the revolution. Yesterday, the protests moved to the Egyptian People's Assembly building. The assembly was the product of a rigged election no one acknowledged, but the permanent winner, the ruling National Party. Since those clinging to power have decided to ignore the demands of 1 million demonstrators, the protesters must resort to new peaceful means to exert more pressure. This street is located 300 meters away from Tahrir Square. The square has become a shrine and a stronghold for the revolutionaries. As days pass, the atmosphere in the square is increasingly heated, attracting more and more people eager for change and democracy. These protesters are still needling the current Egyptian regime and a number of similar regimes in the Arab world. Longing for change has propelled young people in the spring of their life into the movement to be killed by real bullets in this winter's fight for democracy. This cube was set up in the middle of Tahrir Square as a memorial for their spirit and bravery. The United Nations and Human Rights Watch said that at least 300 people have been killed since the popular protests began. Some estimate the death toll is higher. The exact number will be revealed in the coming days. President Mubarak's decision yesterday to form 3 committees doesn't seem to have resonated with the protesters. Vice President Omar Suleiman's patience appears to be running out. He said openly, "We cannot stand the continuation of protests on Tahrir Square for much longer. But these people are here for the long run." It will not be too hard for the descendants of pyramid builders to build new political landmarks for a democratic Egypt.
وفي بورسعيد بشمال مصر حطم محتجون الواجهة الزجاجية لمبنى ديوان المحافظة العام.
In the northern Egyptian province of Port Said, protesters broke the front windows of the provincial government's building and set fire to it. In Manfalut city in Upper Egypt, thousands of protesters blocked the agricultural road between Cairo and Asyut for hours, hindering traffic. They demanded Mubarak step down immediately. Workers went on strike in the Bulaka factory, which belongs to an Egyptian company for railway products and services, demanding a raise. Hundreds of employees of the Egyptian telecommunication company gathered in front of its headquarters near Ramses Square. The workers demanded the company's administration department be dismissed, the discipline council be disbanded, the return of the salary structure, and the elimination of the material and moral differences between the workers. Hundreds of scholars at the National Research Center also demonstrated to demand their wages stabilize and improve.
course, takes us to Egypt, where anti-government protests are getting even bloodier. More than 100 protesters have been killed or wounded in 2 days in the latest round of crackdowns on the demonstrations. Now, the violence occurred in the southern El Kharga city. Witnesses say over 60 people were hit by live bullets after security forces opened fire on the demonstrators. Now, the death toll is expected to rise, with some of the wounded being in critical condition. The protesters, angered by the killings, attacked police and official buildings. They say several buildings on fire, and including the local headquarters of President Hosni Mubarak's ruling National Democratic Party. The violent crackdown on anti-Mubarak protests has claimed the lives of more than 300 people. Okay, we're looking at exclusive footage from Press TV. This is when the crackdown took place in Kharga. As you can see, the protesters are lighting a fire. Pictures of Mubarak or other symbols of the regime. We have at least 100 protesters being killed or injured in this area. Again, this crackdown has happened starting yesterday, where security forces have cracked down on the protesters and demonstrators, with many people being injured and some of them in critical condition and perhaps may not survive. These are exclusive Press TV footage of some of the wounded. And of course, viewer discretion is advised. As you can see, some of the footage is extremely graphic, but these are exclusive. This is exclusive footage from Press TV. These are some of the wounded that are being cared for from the Al Kharga clashes. 2 days of clashes have been taking place, where hundreds have been wounded and many in serious conditions as the crackdown continues. This is the 16th day of massive countrywide demonstrations. As you can see, some of the remnants of what has taken place. The vehicles, obviously, a vehicle that had been burned. And in our report, we said that the buildings, many buildings have been set afire. Of course, as the rage of the demonstrators, really they took out their rage as the crackdown. They started shooting and many people were wounded. Here you were looking at images coming from Kharga. These are images out of Al Kharga.
The Egyptian revolution has entered its third week, as revolutionaries continue to demand President Hosni Mubarak step down, and as the regime continues trying to quell the revolution. Meanwhile, the protesters are preparing for Friday, which they say will be a decisive day. The following report highlights the most important events shaping the Egyptian revolution in the past 2 weeks.
This is how it all started. This young man setting himself on fire marked the beginning of an end to more than 30 years of rule. On January 25th, the revolution was sparked in Egypt, a revolution that will likely continue to play out until President Hosni Mubarak has been toppled. After 30 years of complete silence, voices of freedom started to rise up, expressing decades of anger and frustration with the regime, reaching their climax on January 28th, or the Friday of Anger. On that day, protesters came out in full force, despite the heavy deployment of police and security forces. From Tahrir Square, angry protests quickly spread across Egyptian provinces in defiance of curfews initially imposed in Cairo, Alexandria and Suez. All government measures have failed to silence the angry voices of freedom. After days of massive protests, Mubarak appeared unexpectedly on national television to reinforce his crumbling regime. He promised to implement reforms, fired his government and appointed the country's intelligence chief as his vice president, a post that has been vacant since the assassination of former Egyptian President Anwar Sadat.
وتتسع إلى كل أنحاء البلاد. تسلمت الحكومة الجديدة مهامها بعد تكليفها من قبل مبارك.
The government measures have not changed anything on the ground, as public anger continues to rage across the country. After being sworn in by Mubarak, the new government proposed some reforms that could lead to a peaceful transition of power in the country.
سريعا وقاطعا مع الماضي. هنا بلغ التناقض ذروته لا بين الأهداف والطموحات.
While Mubarak wants a gradual and slow transition of power, the demonstrators want a swift and immediate transition. The showdown between the regime and the protesters reached its peak after clashes were reported between the two sides, in which camels, horses and donkeys were used.
بآخر تقنيات العصر وأكثرها مسالمة وخطورة في الوقت ذاته. On February 2nd, or Black Wednesday as it's being referred to here in Tahrir Square, hundreds of protesters were reportedly martyred or injured in the clashes. By now the revolution has spread to every Egyptian city and protesters continue to call for Mubarak's departure. With each new day comes new developments. Friday of departure was a day set for the toppling of the more than 3-decade-old regime. In response, the regime opened a dialogue, which was strongly rejected by the protesters in Tahrir Square. Opposition blocs were reluctant to join the government talks. On Monday, the Week of Steadfast was launched, with marches of millions scheduled for Friday, Sunday and Tuesday, in preparation for what they referred to as a decisive day. As the revolution enters its third week, the protesters have turned the heat on government institutions. Yesterday, the protesters surrounded the Parliament and the Interior Ministry. Today or tomorrow, the protesters may move the battle to new but more fortified fronts.
The following report by my colleague Ibrahim Suri introduces the Egyptian youth who initiated the revolution.
Youth played a pioneering role in the Egyptian revolution that led people to take to the streets against the ruling regime. These young people, who committed to strenuous and sometimes dangerous work, led the Egyptian street to explode. The common denominator among these young people is that they have all experienced the regime's prison, with or without a reason. They were all pursued by Egyptian security forces and intelligence agencies, in addition to being subject to abuse by the Interior Ministry, led by Habib al-Adli. Ahmed Maher, born in 1980, is a civil engineer. 3 years ago, he founded the April 6th youth movement. This movement, alongside the online community known as We're All Khalid Saeed, played an important role in organizing the March of Millions, which was unprecedented in Egypt's recent history. Maher emerged as one of the most prominent organizers of the first general strike Egypt witnessed. For this reason, he was kidnapped once and arrested once. However, that did not stop him from organizing the June protest last year in solidarity with Khalid Saeed, a martyr of the emergency law. Maher, who is never without internet and modern information technology, recently told a newspaper, "After the revolution in Tunisia and the overthrow of Zine al-Abidine, we became able to promote the idea of change in Egypt." Isra'a Abdel Fattah, born in 1978, is a member of the El Ghad party and participated in the call for the April 6th strike. She was arrested by the authorities on the same day and taken to the Kasr al-Nil police station, where she was accused of inciting riots.
It has been 30 years. How can we trust a regime that has betrayed us for 30 years? We need to try something else. Why should we give them another 6 months? When the President of the Republic decided to replace the government, he assigned a new one from the same regime. When we asked that Parliament be dissolved, how can the President come out and say that Parliament will review the violations committed?
Nawar Ahmed Fuad Najim is a journalist and public affairs and human rights activist. She is the blogger behind the popular Tahrir Front, which was founded on the eve of the October War. She became an activist in 1995 by protesting Israel's participation in an industrial exhibition in Egypt. This led to her first experience in prison, which initiated her anti-torture activism and made her politically conscious, rejecting the government's domestic and foreign policies.
We have had enough. We are going to continue until we hear the president saying he understands us. This is our ultimate demand.
ومن حركة 6 إبريل برز أيضا أحمد دوما الذي كتب يوما لابد للدكتاتور أن
Ahmed Douma also emerged from the April 6th movement. One day he wrote, "The dictator must go." He was tortured in the regime's prisons, interrogation rooms, and the military court. This barbaric torture broke one of his arms. Douma, the spokesman for the April 6th movement, is 23 years old. He is a University of Tanta student and an active blogger. Wa'el Ghanem also played a large part in the call for mobilization and self-expression. He was detained for 12 days. After his release, the youth of Tahrir Square chose him as their spokesman. Among the youth and activists jailed and tortured in the January Revolution are Dia El-Sawi, member of the Youth Union of the Egyptian Labour Party, Karim Rida, Mohammed Shawki, Ahmed Rifat, Basim Fatahi, Ahmed El-Barmawi, Ilji Hamni, Islam El-Badri, Mohammed Mahi, and Abdel Rahman Ayaz. Egyptian bloggers also played an important role in the People's Revolution by conveying their positions, propositions, and calls on their websites. Wa'il Abbas is at the forefront of these bloggers. A human rights activist, Wa'il won a journalism award from the International Center for Journalists and an award from Human Rights Watch. BBC chose him as one of the most influential people in 2006. In addition, there are many others who played important roles in the January Revolution, including Khalid Said, who requires a separate story.
The scene in Tahrir Square, in the center of Cairo, has not changed much from before January 25th. The square is still filled with people, but demonstrators have taken the place of tourists and shoppers. It was free to serve as a site of self-expression and the expression of a different opinion. Merchants in the square have varied opinions. Some defend the right to demonstrate, while others defend the right to make a living. Rasha Abdurrahman reports from Cairo.
These streets lead to Tahrir Square, which up until recently was Cairo's commercial center filled with buyers. It is now packed with demonstrators. Some merchants have closed their stores, while others decided to remain open in hopes of having at least one now rare transaction. This has led some to link the economic stagnation to the continued demonstrations.
The activity is very weak. It has been semi-condemned by the revolution. They got some of their demands. They should calm down now. We should try to talk to each other.
Behind this fence separating us from Tahrir Square, demonstrators have a different view. They believe that social justice, freedom, and economic prosperity are not granted, but must be taken. Here, in the heart of the square, everyone utters the same words and has the same demand, that they will not concede. Demonstrators don't believe they are to blame for the slowing of economic activity, the recession, and the economic drain Egypt is currently witnessing.
There's no social equity. Why should we leave? Who are we working for?
We will get tired for 1 month, but we will rest for a very long time. My son, grandson, and all future generations will rest.
Supporters of the government don't need them to leave. We have nothing, so we need them to leave. To outsiders, we say, come see us. If we're just eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, come eat with us.
For a better future, we are still here, and we shall remain here. This is the message demonstrators in Tahrir Square insist on delivering to everyone.
قالت مصادر عراقية أن 8 أشخاص قتلوا وأصيب.
Iraqi sources said 8 people were killed and about 70 others were injured in 3 bombings in the northern city of Kirkuk. Security sources said the 3 bombings targeted a police officer, a patrolling team, and a building for security forces in Kirkuk, respectively.
مقرا لقوات الأمن الكردية.
هكذا بدت المدينة بعد التفجيرات.
This is how the city looked after the bombings. They went off in quick succession. The first bomb-laden car targeted an officer and missed. The second aimed at a police patrol, and the third exploded outside a building used by Kirkuk security forces.
في تتابع سريع.
إلى متى نبقى هذا الوضع السيء الغير المستقر؟
We cannot stay in this bad situation. It's not stable. We demand that the country and the Kirkuk government take strong security measures to prevent this type of attack from happening again.
كي لا تتكرر هذه العمليات مرات أخرى لأنه من الضحية الناس الفقراء.
The victims are all common people. They are not rich people or officials. They're all poor and simple people.
Security forces were put on the highest alert level. The area around the bomb sites was closed off and security checkpoints were tightened in fear of another booby-trapped vehicle. Arabs, Kurds, and Turkmen all live together in the city of Kirkuk, which has already witnessed ethnic tension. Violent acts like this complicate the situation even more, especially as U.S. troops are scheduled to withdraw at the end of this year.
Russia has proposed that the United Nations Security Council make its first visit to the Middle East in more than 3 decades in an effort to revive stalled peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vitaly Churkin, said that in addition to Israel and the Palestinian territories, the 15-nation council should aim to visit Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria. Council diplomats said privately that it is unclear whether the United States would be in support of such a visit by the Security Council. According to Churkin, the proposed mission would ideally take place soon in light of Saturday's reiterated call from the quartet to conclude peace talks by September.
We are making this proposal now because we are concerned about the situation in the Middle East. As we all know, the efforts to restart the Israeli-Palestinian talks are at an impasse, and the situation in the region is quite fragile and is fraught with further possible complications. So we think that a mission of the Security Council could help on both tracks. The menu is out there, but it needs a lot of preparation and careful discussion about the messages which we are going to send and about the places we need to go. I think that all of us clearly wanted to be a positive signal, a positive effort on the part of the international community in order to move the Middle East peace process forward.
As reported earlier, Governor of the Bank of Israel, Stanley Fischer, is undertaking his own efforts to battle escalating prices while arguing with the Treasury against tax reductions. Fischer explained his views at the Herzliya conference last night while insisting that the national budget should not be altered.
We decided to intervene in the foreign exchange markets. This was not an easy decision, because we had not intervened for 10 years. Why did we do it? Well, we saw the recession coming. It was clear already in the beginning of 2008 that we were heading for big trouble. And we were not prepared to have, for this economy, a double hit. A hit from the global recession, which was coming, and a 20% appreciation just before the recession was going to hit it, the global recession was going to hit us. So we decided we were not going to penalize 45% of our production, which is exports, by having the exchange rate appreciate 20%. And we intervened on a big scale, and we caused the exchange rate to bounce back to roughly where it had started. That was a very big operation where we bought a lot of reserves. But we had wanted to build up reserves. We had long felt in the Bank of Israel that our reserves were inadequate, that by the normal criteria for reserves, we were low. Rating companies used to ask us about that. And furthermore, we mentioned very discreetly that Israel has a special geopolitical situation, and the normal criteria for holding reserves probably are not sufficient, and that we felt we needed to hold more than that. So our reserves, which had been pretty flat, as you can see, for a very long time at around 27, 28 billion, we started buying first slowly, and then we increased it to $100 million a day, and we are today, that number came out today, at $73 billion in reserves. Do we feel badly about it? No. At least I feel much more reassured, and I think recent events should explain why we feel more reassured about having these reserves.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs, programs which connect you to the world.